Good morning. Welcome to Spotlight. Today I am here with the founder of SummerStore. Kennedy, would you tell us a bit about your business?
Sure, yeah. So SummerStore is a moving and storage company for college students. It was founded back in 2022. Since then we've grown a lot. We've gotten a couple of partnerships. It's going well.
Wonderful. And before I kind of get too deep into that, I guess I want to hear a bit more about your personal background, sort of where you come from and how that's informed what you're doing today.
Sure, yeah. I was born and raised in Louisiana. Moved there after a couple of years to Minnesota. From Minnesota, I actually lived overseas for a couple of years in Peru. And came back from Peru around 2012 and moved back to Minnesota. And from Minnesota, I started getting into business when I was a little too young to get into business. Around 12 years old, I got into some online stuff, multiplayer servers online. Started dabbling in freelance graphic design and programming around that time. And then all throughout high school, I continued working on a bunch of projects online until business became something I was passionate about. So coming into college, there's a part of me that was like, I really got to get into business while I'm in college. So I was just waiting for an opportunity like that to open up. Coming into college, I joined a group on campus called the FGLI Community Ambassadors. And during my time with that position, there were a couple of opportunities given to me by the administration to, for example, write a guide on how to save money for storage for first-generation low-income students on campus. That's part of my own background, to come from a low-income background, so either of my parents were in business, so it was sort of a self-learning journey. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but use mentorship. But along this whole path, it's been a lot of sort of leaning on my own understanding. Again, wouldn't recommend that, but here we are, through that position, wrote a storage guide on how to save money with storage. And we just recognized that there were not very good options, So that first year, my freshman year at Yale, at the end of the year, there's a group of friends that I had that were all interested in saving money with storage, but didn't have a viable option. So I decided, why don't we all share a storage unit? It's a thing that people do already, right? Like this is not unheard of. But I decided to charge them each a few bucks, and I think I ended up net positive actually after that exchange. I didn't do the math very well, so I ended up net positive, and I was like, this could turn into maybe a job or something like that if it scaled up. That next year, I decided to get a group of 4 friends, and those 4 friends each stored for their own large group of students, and then we essentially just started multiplying from there, right? So that second year, the first year, wouldn't call it SummerStore, it was just me storing for some friends. Second year is when I started hiring people, and we started handing out brochures, handing out cards to people around campus, like, hey, you want to save money with storage? We've got an option for you. I was aware at the time of the existing options like dorm room movers, storage dollars, but I was a little bit peeved with the price points that they offered and the services that they provided, because they charge a lot. For one, they charge a lot, but they also charge a lot for items that students just need to store during the summer. For example, a lamp. When you're storing a lamp, it's not necessarily the right dimensions to put inside of a box. Most of these other services are built around everything going into boxes, right? So I wanted to offer a service where we would be able to take a certain number of items that on average a college student would need to store, but put that all under one plan rather than charging for each individual item. So that first year we just said $250, we'll store whatever you have as a college student. We'll just it has to be just your items. This is really sketchy. Like people totally broke this rule and stored with their friends and stuff. But there was a little bit of motivation behind that to start collecting data, because I just wanted to know what the average college student would need to store. So that first year we collected a bunch of data on item types, item categories. We got down like the averages of the number of, the average cubic foot usage per student. And from there it's just a matter of scaling that up. So that following summer, decided to put to use the experience in graphic design, web development, and built us a website. Because we operated off of a Google form on our first year, so needed something better than that. We needed something for point of sale. Things were getting a little sketchy if you you're doing things for a Google form with that many people. But around that time was when I got an offer to be interviewed for Yale Daily News. They did an article that covered on it, which really helped us in that first year gain publicity. And built a pretty expansive website that summer. It was a very dense period of time where it was early mornings, late evenings working on that website. Thank you, ChatGPT, for all the support you gave during that period. Built up our website, and coming into the year after that, it was probably the most valuable tool we had was that website. It enabled a lot of automation, did our point of sale, our appointment scheduling. Students would register all of their items ahead of time, so we would know exactly before move-out day how many items students would be storing, where they'd be going. That same summer, we also I decided to bring on 2 other owners. One of which was a friend that I had worked with for around that time, about 8 years, on various online projects. So he was somebody that I actually met online when I was younger, and became good friends with through doing work online together. And he helped us that summer score a partnership with this company called Units. And Units is a nationwide brand that provides portable storage containers. And they're essentially 16-foot, 12-foot storage containers that, around this time we realized there's a little bit of a problem with student employment, to having kids essentially driving trucks around and unloading and loading trucks is a kind of dangerous thing for students to do. I was injuring myself frequently, doing that. Nothing major, but, scrapes and bruises. I was like, we're going to get a lawsuit one of these days if we don't somehow make this process safer and insure it. So, we worked out a partnership with this company because they have these containers that get placed on the ground. So there's no lifting items up into the back of a truck. They can be placed outside of residential halls, and students can actually bring their own items out. It greatly reduced the need for movers. Movers were a hard thing to actually acquire. But we realized that more students than not are willing to bring their own items to these drop-off points, which means we don't need as many people as these other storage operations do. We just need someone to unlock the container, man it, check in students as they come, right? Their items are already registered, so they can just count the items and pass them into the container. These storage containers have been a big part of our growth, and a part of our business model, and have served to be quite the utility. So, yeah.
And that first year where you were charging people $250 for the whole summer,
sure,
did you still manage to make a profit that year or no?
We did. Wow. We have not lost money on any year.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
It's been net positive from the start. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I suppose the hardest thing, at least that I can imagine with storage is kind of building trust with people. Because if they're like leaving your belongings, say if they're leaving their belongings with you for months on end, I feel like building that rapport must be pretty hard. So as like a new company and as a freshman in your like first, I guess, second summer, how were you able to get people kind of convinced and on board that you could do this?
It's a great question. A network of friends, putting in a good word, was especially helpful. The news article was especially helpful. I think parents liked that article. They liked the heart behind the business. I think people recognized that it was student-led, so there was a little bit of risk that people were putting in when they signed up that first year, but you know, those are our legacy customers. We thank them for all the risks that they took in trusting us, because it was risky business, but you know, we got back everybody's items, and yeah, that's a big one. Building up trust in this industry is really important, and part of that is the brand identity. Essentially, is you know, from the clothes that we wear to the way that we present ourselves. And even the design of our website comes down to building up trust with our customers. You know, our whole experience is built around, like, we care about you. You know, we're your peers. Like, we care about you, but also we're in a position to take care of the things that, you know, you trust with us. And we take that very seriously. So, yeah, it's built into kind of much of what we are. Yeah.
And from what I can tell, it seems that you're able to do this for cheaper than everyone else. What factors kind of contribute to that other than the movers? Like, is there much more to it than that? Do you think the other companies are just charging more because they can?
Yes. I think for one, they are charging more because they can, but also some of these other companies employ local moving companies, which can be, you know, any amount of expense for these movers. For fair employment, movers do cost a lot per hour. It's hard work, and for what movers do, it's well deserved to get paid well. You know, and we offered students about $30 an hour, or sorry, 26. I think it was $26 an hour for moving, and even that, I was like, I feel like we should pay more for the type of work that they're doing. But yeah, movers is a factor. I believe in that. The corporate scale that these companies operate in, they have a lot of administrative costs. They have full-time positions that they have to cover. They have office buildings that they're maintaining, and yeah, there is more motivation behind these companies to make money than ours, right? Like we have built into our mission to actually keep our prices low, which influences the decisions that we make and influences not the corners that we cut, but the decisions that we make in our providers, for example. We really try to keep things at an all-time minimal. We don't worry too much about keeping things fancy, but keeping things reliable. Yeah, so.
And I feel like for this kind of business, there must be sort of a lot that isn't in your hands, right? Unless you like own warehouses and you own all these trucks. How do you deal with the kind of inherent logistical risk of letting other people kind of help you with this stuff, that you have to sort of rely on logistics, which famously goes really well until it doesn't?
Yeah, logistics is, yeah, it's tough. With this last year, for example, we had, we had 3 trucks going around dropping off these 16-foot storage containers in the middle of New Haven while people are moving in and out, while cars are trying to park in our spots. You know, we work with the city of New Haven to get spots reserved, and we get permits and all these things, but people still get in the way and all that stuff. So there's a little bit of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with running around, calling the city of New Haven, getting cars towed, kind of situations where, you know, it can be stressful, but in preparation for logistics, our website does prepare locations, and it connects to our partners' system, and we create requests at specific locations for our containers to be placed, and then our partner organization is able to know exactly when and where to place these containers, pick them up, take them away, take them to the warehouse, bring them back in the fall. And as far as items go, for students, whenever students store items with us, we at any time can know when and where their items were at any given point in time. In our containers, we have every item is itemized in our system, so we can track it down. Essentially, there's a period during the summer sometimes where we have to move items between containers. For example, if a student lives on old campus, and then they're moving into Murray, and they move into a container that's on old campus where students from Berkeley, Hopper, wherever are also moving into, those containers have to be consolidated into the other containers that are going to be dropped at those other locations. So in those situations, there can be mix-ups. We've experienced a couple of mix-ups like that in the past. Generally, those are resolved by working with the customers, waiting to see where the items may have ended up. We have plans for the future to keep those at an all-time just minimal as much as possible. But when you're working with tens of thousands of items, sometimes slip-ups happen. For example, we had a student whose box went missing during move-in and move-out, and just turned out that the box was unlabeled somehow in the system. Those kind of things somehow slip past at times. We're implementing a new barcoding system this year to prevent stuff like that. We used to have students manually label boxes, but this is a process of trial and error with startups. So it's just refining things as time goes on, to keep mistakes minimal, margins on that kind of thing low. But mistakes can happen.
Of course. Yeah. And you're saying so people can store boxes with you, but also like individual single items. So how does that work in terms of like pricing? How do you like manage that?
Yeah, so for our service, we have 3 base plans, 10 items, 20 items, and 30 items. Most students choose the 10-item plan. We actually built this business around trying to keep most students paying about $250 for all of their summer storage. So most students do choose our 10-item plan. 10 items includes up to 10 items of either boxes or miscellaneous items, so that can be furniture, lamps, etc. And we don't charge extra for those other items. So, as you register in our system, you tell us how many boxes you want to store and all the other items that you're going to store. That's essentially how it works.
So you have people like personally inspecting basically the items that they get. Have you ever had anyone hand in like a particularly strange item that you've had to deal with?
We had a massive beanbag once. So we do restrict the maximum dimensions on some items to the extent that if it exceeds a certain dimension, we ask that they request the item. So it'll like go through manual processing. Someone requested a beanbag, and as I was going through one night accepting these requests, I saw the request for a beanbag, and I did not look at the dimensions close enough. This thing was, it was from behind your chair to behind my chair.
Oh my gosh.
Beanbag. It was fat. It was like the one you're sitting on back there, but like about 4 times bigger. So
it's like an island, basically.
Yeah, it was an island of a beanbag, and I just remember opening up that container. I think it was around Silliman or something. Opening that container and just seeing this thing take up like half the container. I was like, good grief. Like, we'll keep it because that was our bad. Sometimes these mistakes happen, and we just have to take the fall for it. Because of course I clicked accept on that request. It's not the customer's fault, of course. But it was certainly a funny experience to open the container and see just a massive beanbag. Yeah.
Wow. And so, for now, you're kind of doing this business at Yale, but do you see it working on other campuses as well? I can imagine. You're saying part of your kind of edge is that you don't have all this administrative kind of bloat that all these multi-campus companies have. So how do you plan to avoid that as you move around?
So to avoid that, we're actually reducing our bloat, even more so than we have now. Part of our plans during this season, we are working on partnering with nonprofit organizations on campuses. One of the first initiatives that we had there was trying to partner with Yale Sustainability Office to run the Spring Salvage program on campus, which was one of the sources of inspiration for our project. So we were going to assist them in data collection through our platform because it's optimized for quick periods during the move-out period of collecting data. So we've got an ongoing partnership with them. We're in the stage of they've asked us to partner with them, and I have to get back to their email. So we're at that stage with them, and that has translated into kind of what we're looking to do, which is to partner with these nonprofit organizations and make our company more community based, rather than being this nebulous organization that appears on campuses, providing storage services but not really being an intimate experience with your peers. So what that would look like, for example, we're working with our potential first partner, which is Christian Union. I have a meeting with them actually upcoming this week to discuss plans to have them run the storage operation on campus through their student community. They've got a large student community with students who are open and willing to volunteer to serve their community. And we would essentially be offering our web platform. We would, as opposed to running the storage operation as an organization ourselves. So we would provide customer support, ensuring our partnerships and providers, and our platform itself to nonprofit organizations to run operations like this on their campuses. Now the partnership with Christian Union is strategic in the sense that this organization operates at some of the largest Ivies in the nation, or the Ivies essentially, right? Like the Cornell, the Dartmouth, Columbia, these are the universities that would be prime spots for us to open up. So we're going to discuss what that partnership would look like this upcoming Monday. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something there that I wanted to ask about, which is insurance.
Right.
How does that work for your business? Is it that you have to deal with that with the warehouse in which you're storing the items? Like, I mean, I guess I should ask, I presume that you offer insurance to the students?
That's right. This term, we're looking at a couple changes to our insurance system. That's upcoming, something we'll keep down low for now, but in this previous term, we just provided essentially $150 guaranteed insurance for lost or damaged items. And we had a couple of claims there for broken TVs and stuff. We asked students to carefully pack their items. Sometimes they give us TVs that are completely unpacked, and we have to waive insurance in those cases. But it's self-provided insurance in the sense that we keep rolling revenue to or rolling income to provide for that those insurance claims, those possible insurance claims. But we also have insurance. We've been offered insurance through our storage provider for major claims. So, for instance, if a container gets lost or damaged, or thrown off the back of a truck or into the ocean or something like that, for those major situations, we're able to be covered as well. So, yeah.
But so the individual items, it's kind of you guys providing the insurance, kind of basically out of pocket whenever it needs to come up.
That's right.
Wow.
And for example, in that instance of the student whose box was lost, sometimes we, in this last case, we went a little bit beyond what we normally would offer for insurance, just because I was personally dealing with the case and I felt bad enough about it that, she had some cleaning items that she needed. So, I drove to Target on our biggest move out day while hundreds of students are moving around on campus, moving in and out, and I'm driving to Target. I'm like answering the phone. I'm like, I'm picking up cleaning supplies for one of our customers. And so we sometimes like it's like we try to offer more than what our terms of service necessarily specifies, because again we're not in this for the money. We're in this for the community, right? Like, this is a thing that we're doing to serve our local community. We're making money from it, but really that's not our objective. Our objective is to provide a service that people are left content, satisfied, and can feel safe with. So yeah, we for example, in that case, we paid the insurance claim, got supplies, and then we found her box and gave it to her and let her keep the insurance and the box and the extra supplies, right? Like, so sometimes that happens, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So. And one thing that I suspect is pretty hard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to do all this planning ahead of time, and I assume you have to like pay a lot of people ahead of time before you start, even sort of before you know how many customers you'll have in a given year. How do you approach that planning? I mean, you've clearly like done it very successfully these last few years. If you've never, and like if you've always made a profit, but like, sure. I suspect that's like not an obvious thing to do.
Well, we actually don't have a lot of people to pay before the operation actually starts. That's one of the reasons why this has been successful, is that most of the expenses come after customers actually pay for the service. So that was especially the case in our first year. The one exception to that is boxes, in which we just ordered a surplus of. I had money to put into that. But we're just going to continually use the last year's income to pay for the next year's boxes. But aside from that, our storage providers, any fees there come after the term has ended. They're graciously allowing us to pay for those invoices, once customers actually have paid for their services. So it's sustainable in the sense that we, out of pocket, there's not a lot going on, yeah.
And another thing that's really come through over the course of this conversation is that you really sort of see this and really are like performing a service to the Yale community. And I was wondering, I'm sure sometimes you have to make decisions that ultimately have to be for the business, and for the business to work, you have to make decisions that sometimes may upset your community. How do you like balance those in those times? And has that ever come up or not yet?
Making a decision that upsets the community?
Not that upsets them, but you kind of have to balance your service. What about ones that maybe you have to like balance the fact that you want to serve your community to the fact that you kind of like have to like break even, for example?
Yes. It's fun. I don't think I've ever had to run into a situation like that. Up until now, as I mentioned, we've been successful to the extent we've never like been in a situation where we're worried about money, in that it hasn't been an issue, so.
And I can imagine sort of when I think of like move out period, it always seems like made more stressful by the fact that I have finals, and my extent of my job is just to put things in my boxes and then hand them off. But on your end, how do you balance having to study for finals and dealing with tens of thousands of items at the same time? That must be insane.
It's insane, and it would drive any person insane, and it drove me insane. Especially that first year was a little nuts. I was taking computer science 323. Which if anyone knows, that is a nuts class, and it was on our biggest move out day that we had a final project due, and I mistakenly left that project until the very last day. I did my CS 323 final project between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. on the biggest move out day, and I did it in the front of a U-Haul truck while we were moving students out.
That's insane.
I have this picture of me sitting at a computer doing this final project. It was like thunderstorming that day too, so it was like a chaotic day. But I was working on that project and managed to get it in by noon on that day. So yeah, like the realities is like I'm a student, and there's a reason I'm taking a year off this year to focus more on this. But during exams, like you said, it is the most stressful time of year for students, and we're trying to alleviate that stress. So some sacrifices were made to do that, even if it was my own pain for a bit. I'm willing to do that for this community, and we've got a lot of people on our team. We had a lot of people on our team, both of those years where they were graciously offering their time during also the most stressful time of year for them. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I guess to give our non-Yale viewers some context, CS 323 is like the hardest class here. And when I took it, the final project took me like a solid 45 hours. So the fact that you did it in 10% of the time is actually really insanely impressive. But yeah, I mean, that was like really interesting to hear that you kind of have to do all this like while you're on campus, you're going back and forth. And then how does that work for move in as well? You have to move in your own stuff. I guess, like, do you put your own stuff with your business, or do you kind of have to like have that sorted before you start?
I did not store my own belongings with my own business this year because I live off campus.
Right.
So I haven't had to actually store with myself. But in my first year, I did store with my friends. So that was kind of the part of the motivation too, is like I needed storage as well. And I think I would be my biggest customer. I have way too much stuff. But yeah, I think my service would be too expensive for me even. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But yeah.
And you mentioned that you're taking kind of a year off now. How's that been? Like, how much more time have you had to dedicate to the business, and what are the fruits of that going to be for this year?
Yeah. So hopefully it's going to come here in the next couple of months as we both ramp up for this season, and in those upcoming conversations that we're having with this partner organization. I've spent a lot of time with them this year, and I'm very grateful for that community, for what they've done for this community, and also for me as an individual, building me up as a leader. And my faith is an important thing to me, so being with the Christian Union has been just so important to who I am as a person and what I can actually offer in regard to this business and this community. So I've spent a lot of time there, and the website has seen some major improvements for any customers who experienced it last year. There were a couple of moments where it was a little slow, and for administration on the back end, it's a full CRM, so we manage finances, we manage logistics, dispatch, customer service, appointment scheduling, container management, user support. Everything goes through our website, so it's seen some major improvements, and we're scaling it up to work with partners and making it more modular. There's dashboards for specific roles across the whole spectrum of positions and partners that we have. And it's becoming more and more of a platform that I can see scaling into other service industries possibly in the future. So in itself is a technology that I see being potentially more useful in the future than just for a storage company. Yeah. So.
Wow. And I guess before we wrap up, I guess I wanted to touch on like future plans for your company and then for yourself. So you'll be graduating in around a year and a half's time. After that, where do you hope to see SummerStore going? And also for yourself, do you plan to keep kind of like running it after you graduate, or do you plan to like pass it down to someone else? And like, where do you envision SummerStore being in like 5 years?
Yeah. To answer that question first, within 5 years, we're hoping to be at least at 10 other universities. I should say 8 other universities is what we have planned, but we could see growth faster than that, depending on how well we're able to stamp it down at other locations in the next couple of years. Our partners are ready to grow with us. They've offered to connect us to all of the other franchise locations to discuss growth. As far as what I hope for SummerStore, I hope for a change in leadership, actually. My role with SummerStore will continue as long as I feel that God has placed me in this position, right? Like I view this whole company as a gift. that I don't want to be wasted, and I'm willing to, if it's in other hands, or if it's better off in other hands, I'm willing to give it to those hands, because I see it as an opportunity for students to serve students, and I love what that is. I love the reality of that opportunity to love one another through service. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much
No problem.
for coming on. That was really, really interesting.
Thank you.
And I hope everyone watching enjoyed. And yeah, see you all next time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
That was really good.